Now, joining us live from our Abuja studio to further examine this is an energy analyst, Mr. Olabode Shomi. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Well, power is central to driving the economic growth agenda of this government. And I'd like to begin from this point. Where would you say the Tinubu administration must start off from if it must address the challenges in this sector?
Okay, I think first and fundamentally, certain things need to be made clear. There's always an assumption that there's a one way to solve the problem. Usually there's not, because there are multiple factors and multiple issues responsible for where we find ourselves. But if you ask me in terms of first steps, one of the things will be to listen to all stakeholders, which it appears that the minister is doing. It is also understandable that he is working on the meter gap as well as the collection losses, because all that comes to one key aspect of the issues in the power sector. Those are the collection losses. It needs to be understood that all the problems within the power sector can be summed up under what we call the ATC&C losses. That is the aggregate, technical, collection, and commercial losses. Again, that's aggregate, technical, collection, and commercial losses. The focus here now has been on the commercial losses, which basically means that even what the services we are delivering, we are not able to collect it. So in terms of low-hanging fruits, the focus is very clear, and I think that's positive for the minister.
And investment in the sector has been challenged, really, due to what industry analysts attribute to low electricity rates or tariff. And it's been a major bone of contention. For you, how can we balance this debate, really, so it will work for both the consumers and those who are in business to make profit?
Okay, so first is that for a long time, Nigerians have actually enjoyed power more like a social service. And really, that perspective still lives on. And that is why many times when there's electricity theft, and when somebody, the average person, sees his neighbor by passing the meter, they see the person as being smart. But what they don't really understand is that the so-called person that you call smart is actually cheating the system, and one way or the other, you may not pay for it, but somebody in the system has to pay for it because it's a system and government is not responsible for it. So that perspective of government business is nobody's business is part of the reason why, first of all, we have a culture that does not encourage a sustainable business model. Now, to the financing in question, every person that invests, even if it is a grant, they invest because they expect that there will be some kind of progress or some kind of recovery. Now, if the business is so sustainable, which is what happens when there is so much theft, there is reluctance for anybody to invest. So the challenge really is for those within the distribution sector, those within transmission, to come up with a business plan that will say that if we invest $1 million or we invest $100 million, it will come out profitable. And that is where it's a responsibility of all of us. Because it's not just the government, it's not just the people in the power sector, it's all of us that contribute to make it a reality what it is. So yes, speaking to basics, whoever is going to look for funding needs to have its fundamentals in place. It needs to have a business plan that is workable and that can convince the investor.
Now, while we can talk about our immediate challenges and the solutions to them, the truth is this has been on for decades. So why do you think Nigeria has been unable, it will seem, to overcome issues around power supply after so many years? And how can we leapfrog on this?
Well, the answer is simple. So if a student failed WAEC, and rather than preparing for the next WAEC, he starts to complain, starts to talk about the bad teacher, starts to talk about the vigilator, starts to talk about the exam hall, and does not spend time practicing his mathematics or chemistry or whatever he needs to pass, the child will continue to fail. One of the reasons why the power sector issues remain is that we have not done a proper analysis and focus on the real issues. When you talk to the average person on the street and say, see, look, power theft causes this, you say you are speaking English, what I just want is power. By that place, deflecting his own responsibility to ensure that the system is kept clean. And that applies everywhere. So, and you also have people in the industry, because it is a technical industry. They just explain away things. They explain using technical terms that people don't look at. So the real issues is that the things that we need to address to solve the problem, we don't focus on it. We focus on the politics. We focus on all other things except the real issues. So it is not magic that there's no progress. And for there to be progress, we just have to face the real issues. The discourse needs to be responsible and held accountable. The transmission company of Nigeria needs to be questioned. The generation companies need to be audited, and a lot of things need to be done. The same thing with the regulator. Said everybody, you need to keep their feet to the fire, and that is the way there will be progress. But for us to expect some kind of magic, some kind of miracle that will suddenly bring power, it doesn't work that way. It is a system. Every single part of the system must work. And every part of the system that is not functional, that is not effective, needs to be questioned. Searchlight needs to be put on it. And gradually, we will continue to make progress until we reach where we should be. But whether that will happen in 1 month or 6 months, I sincerely doubt.
Clearly, this is a major issue, but I would like to thank you so much, Mr. Olabode Showumi, Energy Analyst. Thank you so much for insights which you have provided on the News at 10.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine.